Okay, now picking up where we left off, we created a React app and we put it up on the Tessel 2. Now we actually want to go and do something with it. So I'm going to look over here at this project that I created, T2 React Test App, and go over to the README. And the first thing you're going to want to do is connect a hobby servo, that's a little 5-volt driven servo, to your Tessel 2. And the wiring diagram looks like this. This is over in Fritzing. There's a 5-volt output on the main board that's connected to the red line on the servo. There is the ground that's connected via a black line to the black line on the servo. So that's your power and your ground, and that's going to allow the servo to actually work. And then we're going to have a PWM control line out of port 5, or pin 5 on port A over here that goes to the yellow line. That's how PWM works. It's a 3-line standard that's got ground, power, and signal. The next thing we're going to want to do is change around the UI a little bit. Let's go over here to source, app.js. And we're going to want to have a slider, and that slider is going to allow us to set the position of the servo. So the first thing we want to do is bring in this React range slider. And while that's happening, let's go and bring in some of this code. And we're going to get rid of some things on this side. So let's get rid of logo SVG, and we're going to get rid of, well, most of this. So let's see, take everything out for the app. Okay, that looks good. We're going to include the CSS for the slider. Awesome. And we're going to need to add some state. So let's bring in a constructor. And that's going to set the state position to 90 degrees and have an on change that's bound to this. So let's go build that on change. Now that on change is first going to set the local state position. That's pretty easy. And then it's going to do a regular fetch off the API position. It's going to be a type post, application JSON. And then within that, the body is going to be the position. So that's really just going to send off that request to that endpoint. And finally, we're going to have the slider. I'm going to put it in there, into the app. There you go. So let's save that out. Let's see, how did we do over here? Looks like we're done. So let's start and see what it looks like. All right, cool. We have a slider. We can slide back and forth. All right. I did put in there a little bit of padding. So let's go and reproduce that. So I'm just going to have on .app a little bit of padding. Cool. And then I'll just bump it down a little bit so we can see it. Nice. Okay. So that tells you what the actual, the value is up at the top there. Cool. So now we've got to go and make the server jump through this hoop. So let's see. So let's go over here, because the server is not actually listening at this point to API position. So the first thing we need to do is bring in body parser. It's pretty standard in the Express world. Why this isn't built in, I have no idea. Let's yarn add that. This is going to allow us to process the JSON request. So we're going to need to use that. Let's go and add that code. Cool. And then let's see. So we need a servo pin. All right. We need to register that pin 5. Well, pin 5, but really PWM 0. I don't know why that is. I will say I don't work for Tessel, so I may or may not say happy things about their stuff. Okay. And then finally, we need to put up that API position post method. So this is a whole lot easier than what was on the Tessel 2 documentation site when it came to a server. And this is just a little math that allows us to go and calculate, given a position, degrees that we're getting from the server between 0 and 180, we want to go and calculate the width of the pulse to send to the device. And that's how pulse width modulation works. If you have a very short pulse, that would mean 0.5 milliseconds, then it's going to be at position 0, degrees 0. And if you have a big pulse, well, relatively big pulse, meaning 2.5 milliseconds, that means that you want to be over at 180 degrees. So that's what this actually does. And There's a couple of different mapping things that are happening here, but yeah, I can go through the math in another video. Let's see, is that it? I think that's probably it. So let's build this up. Okay, great. And let's run it on the Tessel. Okay, let's bring it up. And now if I change this, I can see the little servo wagging back and forth. And that's great. We have a web page. It's being served off the Tessel 2. It's controlling a servo via PWM. That's awesome. Enjoy and have fun building out Tessel 2 IoT apps.